Right, well, Nat Talkington and I made it down from Auckland to quite an interesting landing at Wellington Airport.
Welcome to Wellington.
It's the alarming thump that says, you're in Wellington now. We recently had a discussion on Public Address, the website that I run and where Don Christie spends an alarming amount of his working day, about that old question, does programming count as creative work? And I have to say the debate was inconclusive, although it was claimed at one point that, quote, no one was ever moved to weep by a line of code. Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. I dare say there's a few of you in the room who'll be moved to disagree, perhaps through painful experience. The interesting thing about being here tonight is that I have to fly back in the morning because I was a judge for this awards, and then I have to get back for the New Zealand Music Awards, where I was part of the judging academy. So I kind of span both worlds, and it does strike me sometimes that I spent my 20s with musicians, and in my later years I'm surrounded by geeks. Although they're not entirely dissimilar. They both tend to believe that everything is free, although with musicians that means the rent and your stash. And of course some of them actually make the crossing. I was just talking before to some people at my table about Dave Merritt, who I first met as the manager of the Screaming Mimes. He is now Wanganui's head Linux evangelist. You cannot meet Dave Merritt without him thrusting a copy of Ubuntu into your hands. But seriously, there can actually be no doubt about the ability of open source software to enable everyone's creativity, particularly in cases where there's more creativity around than cash. Open source's role, for example, in making real the creative elements of the government's digital strategy is about more than just OSs and applications. The creative community can and should learn from open source ideas about sharing, collaboration, information, and social marketing. It's not just the code that's portable, it's the ideas, and I really believe that. As Don said, we didn't actually invite entries for this category, open source for creativity, we just got them. And then we realised, oh my God, what are we going to do? Hey, new category. So moving on to the finalists. Firstly, Upstage. Upstage brings theatrical performance to any web browser. It is, in effect, a venue for live performance in your browser. Both the performers and the audience can be anywhere in the world with an internet connection, and both can participate with the audience chipping in like an old school theatre crowd, only these days it's chat messaging. Upstage was initiated by Vicky Smith, Lena Saarinen, Carla. There's too many consonants there. Helen Varley Jameson of Avatar Body Collision, and programmed by Douglas Bagnall. Little applause for them. From the theatre to the cinema, and our second finalist, Stray Cinema. Stray Cinema is a really unique experiment in film construction. It's actually won a lot of attention both here and overseas. Through Michelle Hugh's work, Stray Cinema brings the open source ethos to filmmaking. Conceived here in Wellington, Stray Cinema is to become an annual event, allowing filmmakers to remix open source footage to create new works. Stray Cinema's first outing this year attracted 30 film submissions, with the top 5 being screened at the London event in August. How does it work? Like this. The process begins when film footage is released online. Participants modify the footage, submit their own version on the Stray Cinema website, and finally the chosen 5 are navigated from the online digital world into the real world with the London screening. Stray Cinema. Select Parks is our third finalist, and this comes from Julian Oliver, who has been a trooper in the new media art world for the last 10 years. He's an artist, educator and developer. He's internationally recognised in new media art and is at the forefront of artistic developments using open source game engines, open standards, open formats and open codecs. What is it? Select Parks is a community website founded by Julian that gathers a large community worldwide to investigate and discuss the developments of creative development using open source gaming technologies, with Julian's blog, which I can relate to, forming the community access point. Julian has actually made a really astonishing impact on the international game art scene. His pioneering work with open source technologies such as Blender and gathering together a community of people that before he was around really did not have a point of focus, an access point. He's become that. So please applaud him. Our next finalist, War Art Online. Archives New Zealand's War Art Online has been created to make New Zealand's national collection of war art more accessible. Archives New Zealand now has digital images of more than 1,400 works taken from photographic transparencies made of the original artwork several years ago. The images are displayed using the Drupal open source CMS. Significantly, Archives is using the community elements of Drupal to allow the public to comment on the works, and that's an initiative I think all public institutions should follow. They need to engage and involve the public, and I think this is one of the best things about this project. Our next finalist is another public project, NZHistory.net. Another strong nomination, again using Drupal. The Ministry of Culture and Heritage was one of the first government departments to adopt open source, and NZHistory.net is a great example of how it can be done. It attracts more than 400,000 page views a month. It has served as an example for other departments looking at open source tool sets and the benefits of open APIs, and is a great credit to Jamie Mackay and his team at MCH. And last but not least, Access Radio. I've seen this one in action, and I could tell you it's got more than 700 media items in 25 languages across several stations. But the thing that I really like about this project, apart from the fact that it's all open source, is that it's being used by people who, in some cases, have never touched a computer before. And I think that's a real achievement, and I really like what they've done with it. And I hope they can use this to market themselves, because when you look at what's happened with community radio in the US, in part because commercial radio has become so bad, and also because of the opportunities offered by open source software, the sharing ethos and the internet, it's on a roll. It's the strongest it's ever been, and I think there's the potential for that to happen here as well. So, Access Radio. And the winner is Select Parks.